The cursed miracle. December 14th, 1922. The ground shook. It wasn't an earthquake. The Barroso II well had just vomited the Earth's guts. A jet of oil rose higher than a 20-story building. For 9 days, it rained oil nonstop. Cattle died suffocated in the black mud. Cocoa and coffee plantations were burned by the oil. To the simple peasants of the region, that didn't look like wealth. It looked like the end of the world. American engineering couldn't stop the leak. Desperate, the people appealed to the heavens. They brought the image of Saint Benedict to the front of the well, beating sacred drums, begging the black fury to stop. And it stopped. The well walls collapsed and sealed the hole. The people celebrated the miracle, but they didn't know the curse was just beginning. The oil cleared the mud and brought the gold. Suddenly, Venezuela was no longer a rural country. It became the pearl of the Caribbean. The country with the most beautiful beaches in the world now had the deepest pockets. While its Latin neighbors lived in dictatorships and poverty, Venezuela lived the dream. Money flowed as easily as that oil in 1922. They thought the Caribbean party would never end. The Conquest and the Vice. Saint Benedict's miracle stopped the oil, but it didn't stop the ambition. Within weeks, Venezuela was invaded. The richest men in the world, like the Rockefellers, sent their armies of engineers. They didn't care about the Caribbean or the people. They wanted what was underground. The dictator at the time, Juan Vicente Gomez, treated Venezuela like his private farm. He gave concessions to the gringos and, in exchange, money flooded the coffers. In 1930, while the world crashed in the Great Depression, Venezuela did the unthinkable. It paid every penny of its foreign debt. The country was free and rich. But the Venezuelans were smart. In 1960, they realized they held the world in their hands. A Venezuelan minister traveled to the desert and convinced Arab sheiks to form a cartel. Thus, OPEC was born. It was Venezuela that taught the world to control the price of oil. In 1976 came the final move. The government kicked out foreign companies and nationalized everything. PDVSA was born. Suddenly, the state didn't just collect taxes, it owned the largest fortune in Latin America. It seemed like the perfect independence, but it was the perfect suicide. With so many petrodollars coming in, the government thought, why plant coffee? Why have industries? We can buy everything ready-made from abroad. Venezuela stopped producing. The country got addicted to easy money, and like any addict, withdrawal would be deadly. The Messiah and the Ruin.
6 anos depois de tentar tomar o governo da Venezuela à força, o tenente-coronel Hugo Chávez chega ao poder com ampla maioria dos votos.
The oil wealth didn't reach everyone. Inequality opened the doors to populism. In 1998, Hugo Chavez didn't just win an election. He won a blank check from history. He promised revenge against the elite and food for the people, but to give to some, he took from others. The cry of "expropriate it" echoed through the country. He seized fertile lands, cement factories, and food industries.
expropiese. Planta Guarena, expropiese. Planta Lara, expropiese. Planta de Electrosoldado Valencia, expropiese.
The government took over everything, but bureaucrats don't know how to run businesses, and national production began to die. The fatal blow was to the goose that laid the golden eggs itself. Chavez fired 18,000 PDVSA. Engineers and technicians live on TV because they weren't loyal to the revolution. He replaced oil geniuses with political militants. Machines started to break. Production plummeted. Venezuela began importing the gasoline it once sold. The collapse and the hunger. The party lasted while oil was expensive, but in 2014, luck ran out. The price per barrel plummeted in the world market. Without domestic production and without petrodollars, the country that imported 90% of its food ran out of money for the supermarket. Maduro's solution? Print money. The result was the greatest hyperinflation in modern history. Money lost value so fast that people started weighing bills instead of counting them. The middle class became poor in a matter of weeks. With the people starving, the government created a brilliant and cruel weapon, the clap boxes. Subsidized food delivered to your doorstep. It looked like charity, but it was control. The message was clear. If you protest against the government, your box won't arrive. Hunger became state policy. The state rotted. You might think the crisis in Venezuela was just the result of economic mismanagement. But the reality is much more complex and disturbing. The country, which holds one of the largest oil reserves in the world, saw its production collapse after years of inefficient economic policies, endemic corruption, and international sanctions that further aggravated the internal crisis. The economy deteriorated to the point of causing hyperinflation, shortages of basic goods, and an exodus of millions of Venezuelans in search of survival. It is not just about economic failure, but the collapse and capture of the institutions that were supposed to protect the population. In this vacuum of fragile institutions, criminal networks gained space and power, often operating with the complicity of segments of the state and the armed forces. In an environment where drug trafficking, illegal mining, and other illicit activities became part of the country's parallel economy. Since 2020, the United States government has accused President Nicolas Maduro and several members of his inner circle of conspiring in drug trafficking and narco-terrorism activities, with allegations that high-ranking officials facilitated the trafficking of cocaine to the international market, including the U.S. In recent years, the U.S. Department of the Treasury and the Department of State have come to designate a group called the Cartel of the Suns, an expression referring to a system of patronage and corruption involving military and government officials as a terrorist organization, and link this scheme to other criminal factions such as the Tren de Aragua and Mexican cartels. Maduro denies all charges, claiming they are part of a U.S. campaign to delegitimize his government and justify political and economic pressures. But meanwhile, millions of Venezuelans continue living the consequences of this collapse. But history does not stop, and the cycles of power keep turning. To ensure access to in-depth analysis of the events that truly shape the global landscape, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Now the direction of our next investigation is in your hands. If you want to know how it happened and the military and political backstory that led to the US capture of Maduro, comment, The Hunt. But if you prefer to understand what is to come and the real fate of Venezuela after the fall of the regime, comment, The Future. The Hunt or the Future? Define our agenda in the comments.